kind of reiterate what I just said, you'll notice in the introduction, the last sentence in the first paragraph, it says, in some cases, the contract is completely rescinded, and in others, it is reformed by the court in a manner that solves the difficulty, assuming that we have a mistake. You'll also notice, and I just want to point this out, it says mistake, part A, misunderstanding. Quite often, mistake is referred to as misunderstanding, and that's the same thing, okay? I always will say mistake, I'll never say misunderstanding again, but you may see mutual misunderstanding or unilateral misunderstanding, same thing, okay? No difference between the word misunderstanding and mistake, we treat them as the same. So you may have a supplement or a different material that says mutual misunderstanding, same as mutual mistake. Let's take a look on page 512 at our first case, and you'll notice once again that we've got an 1864 case. And this is one of these cases that for some reason is very famous, the Raffles v. Wickle House case. And we have a contract here to buy 125 bales of cotton. So we've entered into this contract where one party has agreed to sell 125 bales of cotton. One party believes that that cotton will arrive on the Peerless ship, ex-Peerless, meaning this is a delivery term, and you'll learn about delivery terms when you take sales, will arrive on the Peerless ship in October. And another party believes that the Peerless ship will come in December. So we have this misunderstanding or this mistake occurring about when the cotton is going to arrive. So one party, we've got our buyer, is saying, I want the cotton in October. And the other party is saying, I thought I was supposed to deliver it to you in December. And what has happened here in real life is that the price in cotton has dropped at this particular time. So one party is saying, I need to avoid this contract. How can I get out of this? And the attorney says, well, you know what? We were both mistaken here. We didn't have mutual dissent. And this is how we get around this. We did not have a meeting of the minds here. One party thought it was coming in October. The other party thought it was coming in December. We were both mistaken. This is pure mutual mistake. Both of us are mistaken. Neither party knows that there's the December. If I think it's October, I don't know that there's the December shipment. The other party doesn't know that there's the October shipment. So we see here we are both mistaken. In a pure mutual mistake situation, and again, too easy, you can set the contract aside. And if you take a look on page 514, we'll look at the restatement in a second. Excuse me, right before we go to that, look on 513 at the questions following this case. It says, what does ex-Peerless mean? That's our delivery term on the Peerless. Number 2, would it matter which of the parties, the seller or the buyer, wanted to rescind the deal? No, it doesn't matter. Either party can do this. So we see in this mutual mistake situation, our buyer and our seller can get out of this. Either party can say, hey, I don't want to move forward with this. We were both mistaken. We were not on the same page. We never had any mutual assent because I agreed to a contract in October. You agreed to a contract in December. We never had a contract. And you'll see at the beginning of this, they said that quite often there's a debate about whether or not we should talk about mistake in our first term. We're talking about, do we have a contract, offer acceptance consideration, because it hinges on, did we have this mutual assent. And we see here that if it's a pure mutual mistake, we don't. We have two different parties with a misunderstanding. Either party can say, I'm going to avoid this contract based on mistake. Either party can get out of this. We see in number 3, if the parties discover the mistake, could they elect to live with it and take the late arriving cotton? That is, does the mistake make the contract void or merely voidable? The contract is voidable. Either party could choose to set this contract aside, but it's not void. Okay, we could move forward with this. So if I think it's coming in October and I say, hey, where's my cotton? And you say, oh, I thought it was coming in December. I could say, okay, December's fine. We were both mistaken now. Or I could say, you know what, we were both mistaken. Pure mutual mistake. Let me out of this contract. So it's up to either party. And the contract is voidable. And you really do want to make sure, I know we probably talked about voidable and void last term. We've talked about it a little bit this term. You always want to make sure that you are familiar with the difference in those two terms. Drastically different. Void means we can't move forward with this contract. Voidable means it's up to you, either the buyer or the seller. So voidable, we may still move forward with this contract based on December, based on October. But it is up to us. It is voidable. So make sure that in situations where they highlight this, that you do take note. Oh, okay, is it void or voidable? Here's voidable. Up to either party. Either party can set this contract aside. Now we take a look on page 514. And I have given you a blown-up version of this on the back of your sheet. This is the same as what's in your book. So this is what I'm looking at as we go through the book. And this is the restatement, section 20. And it just adds a little bit more to our discussion. You'll notice in the first part it says there is no manifestation of mutual assent to an exchange if the parties attach materially different meanings to their manifestations and, either of these two, A, neither party knows or has reason to know the meaning attached by the other, or each party knows or each party has reason to know the meaning attached by the other. What we're saying here is we have no mutual assent if we're mistaken about the same thing. Okay? We haven't arrived at a contract, we have no mutual assent, we were both mistaken. But interestingly, part 2, the manifestations of the parties are operative in accordance with the meaning attached to them by one of the parties. So now we're kind of getting back here to this unilateral situation. Here, one party knows, one party doesn't. The manifestations of the parties are operative in accordance with the meaning attached to them by one of the parties if A, that party does not know of any different meaning attached by the other, and the other knows the meaning attached by the first party, or B, that party has no reason to know of any different meaning attached by the other, and the other has reason to know the meaning attached by the first party. What are we saying here? If we have a situation where one party knows, and we'll illustrate this with the problem in a second, one party knows that another is mistaken, the mistaken party can decide, hey, do I want to get out of this contract, or do I want to have this contract based on my understanding? So we see in this situation, we will have the contract based on the mistaken party's understanding if one party knows. So this is what the second part is getting at. If we have a situation, this is taking it out of mutual mistake. If we have a situation where one party knows that that other guy's mistaken, guess what? The mistaken party can either avoid the contract or say, you know what, we have a contract based on my understanding. Okay? And I think we'll read this again in a second after we look at the next two problems. It's kind of one of these situations where, what are we talking about? Let's see a problem, then go back and read it, and it does make some sense. Let's take a look at problem 110 and 111. Problem 110. Bethany? She's where? Oh, she's out away. Bethany's out away. Problem 110. Seller offered to sell buyer goods to be shipped from Bombay, X steamer Peerless. And again, X means on. Buyer accepted. There are two steamers with the name Peerless, each sailing from Bombay, but at materially different times. Is there a contract if both parties have reason to know that there are two ships named Peerless, but they mean different ships? No. That's what our restatements just set up here, the first part. Okay, so this is the situation where we're both mistaken. So do we have a contract? No, but we're restating. What if both parties intend the same ship? Well, if there are two parties, if there's a contract and we intend the same ship, then we do have a contract. Okay, we remember in this situation where if we're mutual mistaken, it's a voidable option. If we both intended the October ship, then we don't have an issue. We don't have this mutual mistake problem. So part B, or the second part of that, what if both parties intend the same ship? Then we have a contract. Before that, no. Okay, this is what the restatement is attempting to illustrate. Take a look at part B. Is there a contract if seller knows that buyer means the later sailing Peerless, and buyer does not know that there are two ships named Peerless? This is illustrating our second portion, okay? So you see what we have going on here? Do we have a contract if seller knows that buyer means the later sailing ship, and buyer doesn't know there are two of them? Buyer isn't aware of the fact that there is an earlier sailing ship. There is a contract if the mistaken party chooses based on their terms. So it's up to our mistaken party here. This part B, we have one party who knows that one party is mistaken. It's up to the mistaken party. They can either set this contract aside or it's based on their understanding. And that's going to be the most common thing. When we have a situation where we have two parties, one party's mistaken and the other party knows it, it is going to be based on the mistaken party's understanding. So we see here, it says, is there a contract if seller knows that buyer means the later sailing Peerless? Yeah. And it will be the later sailing Peerless. Why? The other party knew. They knew that they were mistaken. We're not going to let somebody take advantage of somebody's mistake. So we have a contract based on the mistaken party's understanding. So this is what B is attempting to illustrate in our restatement 20 above, part 2. have somebody who is aware of the fact that somebody's mistaken? Do we have a conflict? Yes, based on that mistaken party's